Nubook 2, A Journey to Real Freedom, Part 11. My mum was rather a hot mama. She was in her 20s and seemed to handle herself quite well. I didn't realise it then, but not many people would venture from their established home in those days, like the farm, and head out for a new life. She was quite the gal. She also told me about the new man she had met. I didn't understand everything, because I had no experience in that area. I was still wondering what my dad's name was. Late one afternoon, we stopped at a place to rest and stayed the night. We seemed to be out in the boonies somewhere, as much as I could tell. You know, one of those strange places that you would see in some low-rated movie. Mum parked in front of an old-looking place, a roadside motel with a real bad paint job. The colours were a faded red and orange. I could tell that she was very tired from all the driving she had done, and wanted to stop and rest. She said there was no other place for miles, and this place would have to do. It didn't matter to me, because I could sleep anywhere and any time. Duane, I want to just get in the shower and fall asleep, she said, as we both got out of the car. Mum never mentioned the name of the place that we stopped at. I wouldn't have known where we were anyhow. At my age, I really knew nothing. The place did seem a little strange, but I was too young to really care. I followed her as we got out of the car and walked over to the rickety-looking steps that led up to the office. As we were walking up the steps, one of them broke, and Mum almost fell through. This place needs a lot of work, sweetie. Let's see if it will hold together for at least one more night, said Mum, as she laughed out loud. I liked to hear her laugh, so I laughed with her. She didn't seem too happy with the place, even though she was chuckling to herself. We walked into the office, and at first there was no one there. The place looked really old and run down. There were some real strange pictures on the wall, with scenes that were really old and moody. Some of them were portraits of old people who looked like they were ready to croak, or who did croak and were still standing to get their portraits painted. I could see dust on everything, and the place even smelled old and musty. Mum went over to the counter, where there was a bell you hit to get someone's attention. Just as she was about to hit the bell, a man came slowly out from a back room. I was a little surprised at first, because of the silent way he entered and moved to the front desk. He was really old and could hardly walk. He didn't even seem to have the strength to smile. He walked up to the front counter without saying a word, as though he were dragging himself along. It took him a few moments to get there, and then he put his hands on the counter to hold himself up. He still didn't say anything, as he slowly looked at both of us. There was a long pause while he stood there being strange. I started laughing rather loudly. I really couldn't help myself. Mum quickly turned around and looked at me with that look parents give you when they want you to be quiet, as she smiled and softly said, "Shush." I put my hand over my mouth to try and stop myself from laughing, but it was hard. She then turned and looked at the man. Finally, the man spoke. "What's so funny, youngster?" he asked, in his old scratchy voice, which sounded like the ending of a scary movie. Then I really started to laugh. as I could feel my legs turn to rubber. Mum grabbed me and shook me a little and said, "That's enough." She looked at me closely and gave me a funny stare. I could tell that she was smiling too, and trying not to laugh. Then she turned around and faced the old man, who was trying to maintain his balance by holding tightly onto the counter. "We would like a room for the night, sir," she said, very politely. "It will cost you $6, miss," said the man in a low tone. "The rate is $5 for you, and $1 for your son." "That will be fine, sir," said Mum. "We only want to stay one night." Mum reached into her purse and handed the man the money. He gave her the key to the room and pointed in the direction to where we were to go. I could tell that he was definitely not going to leave the counter by the way he was holding on to it. Mum and I walked outside and found the room. When we got there, Mum put the key into the door, but the door wouldn't open. She tried several times, and then became a little frustrated as she looked at me funny. "Maybe this is his car key, and not the room key," she said, looking at me as she finally laughed. I shrugged my shoulders as she continued to try. Heck, what did I know? I am just the kid. After several attempts, she was done. "I'll be right back, sweetie," she said, as I saw her walk to the office. While she was gone, I stood back a little and took a good look at the place. It was kind of creepy. I was too young to have any real judgment or voice my opinion. I really couldn't see anything that I did like as I scanned the entire surroundings. It was just all too strange. The sun was going down, and it was getting dark very quickly. There weren't any lights on the outside of the place, at least from what I could see. The only lights were those of the cars that passed by on the road. Mum was taking her time, and I was feeling weird about this spooky place. I was thinking that maybe I would just sleep in the car, and then Mum came walking back. "That old man is too much. I think he went through his whole house looking for this key," she said, as she put the key into the doorknob, and it finally opened with a good push. A bit of dust flew about as Mum shoved the door all the way open. We entered the gloomy and musty-smelling room. It was really dark inside. There were thick, dull-looking curtains covering the windows that you couldn't see through. It was almost dark, and we could hardly see a thing. Mum felt around the wall for the light switch, and finally found it. When she turned the lights on and saw the room, she jokingly said, "Maybe I'll just leave the lights off." We both laughed and slowly walked into the room. The room had dark wallpaper that was old and faded and torn in spots. There were also similar pictures on the wall, just like that in the office. They were hanging crooked on the wall, and had dust all over them. The pictures were of people who were definitely not going to heaven. I wanted to touch one to see if I could straighten it up, but then I thought I had better not, just in case it fell. Then I would be in trouble with the big noisy guy.